Hey guys, welcome back to Based MMA. In this video, I'm going to be giving you guys my Khamzat Chimaev versus Kamaru Usman breakdown and prediction, guys. This fight is taking place on short notice, 10 days notice for Kamaru Usman as Paulo Costa pulled out due to an elbow injury. And before I get started with my breakdown and prediction for this fight, guys, please make sure to like and subscribe the video. It's been really helping out my channel. A lot more of you guys are, watching my videos, which I really appreciate, guys. And I'm going to continue to improve the content, guys. So I just want to thank you guys for that. So let's get started with this matchup, guys. Let me give you guys some context. I think this is a very interesting matchup. It's crazy to think that a year and a half ago, this was one of people's most anticipated matchups in the welterweight division, man. Because Usman, like about a year and a half ago, I mean, he was putting incredible performances against like Gilbert Burns, his Jorge Masvidal rematch where he knocked out Jorge Masvidal, and then his two fights with Colby Covington, man. Like a lot of people looked at Kamaru Usman as invincible, man. Like just think about how fast the sport really moves on, because now think about how people look Kamaru Usman and think about how people looked Kamaru Usman a year and a half ago, man. And then we had at that same time we got Khamzat Chimaev just defeating Gilbert Burns in a war in which we all knew like that Khamzat Chimaev would learn so much from that fight. So I just remember how a lot of MMA fans, we really wanted to see that Kamaru Usman versus Khamzat Chimaev when Kamaru Usman was the champion. But because of the way things happen and the rematch with Leon Edwards, which we'll talk about, it really changed it. It really changed the landscape of the welterweight division, man. And then now Kamaru Usman is coming off a loss to Leon Edwards in the trilogy, where I didn't think he looked that great whatsoever, man. And that's not to say that Leon Edwards necessarily dominated him, but it was clear to me, guys, the Kamaru Usman's aura, his confidence was just gone, man. And when you get head kick KO'd the way Usman did in that rematch against Leon Edwards, it absolutely changes you as a fighter, man. And the thing is about Kamaru Usman, guys, is that you guys are gonna agree with me that one of Kamaru Usman's best assets, one of the best things about Kamaru Usman, guys, is his confidence. And the fact that now his confidence might not be there is just a huge detriment to Kamaru Usman as a fighter, man. And then on top of that, his injuries, specifically his knees, seem to have been catching up to him. I mean, Kamaru Usman did say that he was going in with a lot of injuries going into that trilogy, man. So maybe his body is starting to really wear out due to all the grappling, all the wrestling, all the injuries over the years, and maybe his prime is over. He's also 36 years old, guys, which is pretty old. Like, not saying it's old for the welterweight division, but you're getting up there in age. And Kamaru Usman had a prime. It seems like he's going downhill, so he's on the decline, guys. But Kamaru Usman does have a lot of strengths, man. He has a hard, solid jab, very good 1-2, beautiful straight punches, and powerful right hands. He has great cardio, and he also has great 5-round experience. I mean, he's been 5 rounds with Colby Covington twice. He fought that Jorge Masvidal fight. He fought that with Tyron Woodley. So, clearly Kamaru Usman has fought the best of the best in the welterweight division, except Jorge Masvidal, who's a journeyman. But he's clearly fought the best in the welterweight division. So he has great experience, great fight IQ, very composed, very focused fighter, great confidence, which is one of the things that I feel like might be a weakness now because, like I said, I feel like after that head kick KO that Kamaru Usman went through, his confidence might not be there. And then his strength, man. One of his best assets in the welterweight division is that Kamaru Usman is very physically strong, which really helps him in the grappling exchanges. Now let's move on to Kamaru Usman's weaknesses, man. I feel like one of the things I noticed when I rewatched Kamaru Usman versus Colby Covington 2 was that when the fight starts to get messy and scrappy, Kamaru Usman loves to duck his head. I mean, he even ducked his head in that Leon Edwards trilogy, and Leon Edwards caught him with a knee. And I just feel like that's one of Usman's weaknesses. It's always been that he loves to duck his head, which can leave openings, right? It can leave openings to uppercuts and other knees. And Colby Covington in the rematch, guys, he noticed this. And in the third, fourth, and fifth round, he started to catch Usman. And when Usman would duck his head, he landed counters. Another weakness that Usman has, guys, is his chin. Guys, because he was dropped by Gilbert Burns. Gilbert Burns he has a lot of power. I get that, but the reason is that now his chin is even going to be worse even before that Leon Edwards rematch. Like I never thought that Kamaru Usman had the best chin, But now after he got head kick KO, man, I'm pretty sure his chin is going to be even worse. So that's something that's a weakness coming into this fight. Usman is also very susceptible because of his guard to body kicks, man. Leon Edwards did a great job in the trilogy of just landing body kicks. And Usman also doesn't throw in combinations. He throws more single strikes and stuff like that. So I also put that as a weakness coming into this fight. Now let's move on to Khamzat Chimaev, guys. Khamzat Chimaev's strengths, his youth. I mean, the guy's pretty young. I believe he's about to turn 30 years old, or he might be 30 years old. I mean, that's a great thing coming into this fight. He hasn't really been in a lot of wars besides the Gilbert Burns fight, so I think he's gonna go into this fight a little fresher than a lot fresher than Kamaru Usman. His strength, his grappling speed and skill. I mean, that's kind of the things that we talk about Khamzat Chimaev, man. He's so good in the grappling, so good at taking the guys down and using his strength to control them on the ground. And the way he picked up Ling Jing Liang and was talking to Dana White was one of the craziest things I've ever seen in a UFC fight. And Khamzat Chimaev, like Kamaru Usman, also has a pretty solid jab and right hand. I mean, his jab might not be as good as Kamaru Usman's jab, but he still has a pretty good jab. And some of his best punches against Gilbert Burns with that jab and that right hand. I also feel like Khamzat Chimaev has pretty underrated leg kicks. He landed a lot of them on Gilbert Burns, especially those low calf kicks that he was landing. I feel like they were pretty underrated. And Khamzat Chimaev also has a pretty nasty uppercut, which I think is going to be very important coming into this fight, which I'll talk about a little bit more when I talk about the fight itself. But let's talk a little bit about Khamzat Chimaev's weaknesses, guys. Khamzat Chimaev is clearly a very emotional fighter, which in some ways it could be a good thing, right? Because you use that emotion to really, I guess have that venom to really win. But at the same time, if you fight very emotional, that could gas you out. You make bad mistakes, bad fight IQ. It could lead to bad fight IQ. And that's one of the things that a lot of people criticize Khamzat Chimaev after that Gilbert Burns fight, where it felt like, at least to me, what I took away from that fight was that Khamzat Chimaev is way more skilled than Gilbert Burns. But Khamzat Chimaev is so young and he clearly doesn't have the experience and the composure that these guys at the top of the welterweight division have, that he just fought stupid. And I know a lot of you guys maybe are not fans of Khamzat Chimaev and are going to say that's a big hope, but I really do feel like Khamzat Chimaev, is a lot more skilled than these guys. It's just that in that Gilbert Burns fight, he just fought very emotional and he kind of got pulled into a scrap instead of staying to his game plan. I mean, his coaches were screaming at the top of their lungs at Khamzat Chimaev, man, and Khamzat Chimaev just was not listening. But I really do believe that he's going to make adjustments and he's going to come in a little bit calmer into this Kamaru Usman fight. He's going to come in a little bit more imposed. So I think his fight IQ is going to be improved coming into this Usman fight. And another thing, like I said, his cardio. But I also think his cardio was a bit hurt because he really went to war with Gilbert Burns. So I really don't know how bad Khamzat Chimaev's cardio is. I don't want to take too much away from that Gilbert Burns fight and really overanalyze that fight and really say, oh, Khamzat Chimaev has bad cardio. Because it could have also been that the fight turned into a war and that would gas anybody out. Like the way those two guys were fighting, anybody else would gas, besides probably Colby Covington. But just the way that fight played out, I don't want to take too much away from that. Another weakness that Khamzat Chimaev has, in my opinion, is his defense, man. He really doesn't move his head. I mean, he uses his guard to cover punches, but he doesn't really move out of the way from punches, which I think could be a problem, especially if Kamaru Usman is able to land the jab, which is one of his greatest tools. It could really give Khamzat Chimaev problems, guys. But anyway, let's talk about the fight itself and my prediction, guys. And I'm just going to cut right to the chase, guys. I'm going to cut right to the chase. I really do believe that Khamzat Chimaev is going to win this fight by TKO. And there's two factors. One, the fight is at 185 pounds. And, some of you guys might think, well, at least Kamaru Usman isn't cutting that much weight, blah, blah, blah. He might have better cardio. He might be a little bit more durable. The problem that I see with that, the problem that I see for Kamaru Usman, the fact that the fight is at 185 pounds, is that I just think that Khamzat Chimaev is going to be the way bigger guy. Like Kamaru Usman, he's a big, strong guy in the welterweight division, but he's not like this tall, big fighter like Khamzat Chimaev is. And I've just seen the pictures of Khamzat Chimaev, the way he's bulked up coming into this fight. And he's going to be a lot stronger than Kamaru Usman coming into this fight, which is one of Kamaru Usman's strengths. Like in most of the fight Kamaru Usman's in, he's usually the stronger guy. And I feel like coming into this fight, he's not going to be the stronger guy. And I think that's going to be to his detriment. Another thing, I don't know where Kamaru Usman's confidence is, guys, because after those two Leon Edwards fights, the second fight and the third fight, maybe Kamaru Usman just doesn't have the hunger and the confidence he once had. You know, I feel like I said, one of Kamaru Usman's best assets is his confidence. And if that's gone, like I don't know, man. I don't really see him this winning this fight. And then also the fight is 3 rounds. You know, Kamaru Usman tends to do pretty well in 5 round fights. Khamzat Chimaev is gonna be the more intimidating guy coming into this fight. And like I said, Khamzat Chimaev, like this fight is at 185 pounds, 3 rounds. Like if this fight was 5 rounds in the welterweight division, I would think it's a little bit more of a closer fight, and also the fact that if it wasn't on 10 days notice, of course, I would give Usman a little bit more of a chance to win this fight. Of course, Usman could come out there and make it competitive, especially if Khamzat Chimaev, tries to take Kamaru Usman down right away and is not successful. Um, I could see maybe, Kamaru Usman start to win the fight on the feet, especially with his jab and stuff like that. But Kamaru Usman isn't going to throw crazy kicks because Khamzat Chimaev might be able to take him down. So really the only thing that I could see Kamaru Usman winning is by his jab and his straight punches and with his boxing. But I think Khamzat Chimaev just has way more ways to win. Like I feel like if Khamzat Chimaev takes Usman down, he's gonna submit him, man. I mean, we saw Leon Edwards take down Kamaru Usman, so Khamzat Chimaev is gonna be even stronger at 185. He's gonna be able to take down Kamaru Usman. Maybe later in the fight, I could see maybe Kamaru Usman defending the takedowns in the first round. But I think as the fight goes on, if Khamzat Chimaev is able to wear him out on the feet, I could see Khamzat Chimaev maybe taking him down later in the fights. But ultimately, guys, I think Khamzat Chimaev is going to win on the feet, man. I think his range, his power, I think Kamaru Usman is going to have to take a lot of risks to hit Khamzat Chimaev. And I think Khamzat Chimaev is just going to hit a lot harder than Kamaru Usman at 185. I do know that I know that Kamaru Usman does have a lot of experience, but I think Khamzat Chimaev's youth, his strength, and the fact that he hasn't been through all the injuries that Kamaru Usman has been through, I think he's gonna be able to KO Kamaru Usman. And ultimately, guys, like I said, that's my prediction. I think Khamzat Chimaev is gonna be able to TKO Kamaru Usman. I think he's gonna drop him with maybe a jab, a right hand that's gonna drop Kamaru Usman, and he's gonna land ground and pound shots, and that's gonna be the end of the fight, man. I think Kamaru Usman, he's gonna struggle. I could see Khamzat Chimaev maybe kicking Kamaru Usman to the body a lot, kicking him to his calves a lot. So I think Khamzat Chimaev is gonna be the guy pressuring Kamaru Usman, or maybe Khamzat Chimaev takes a more measured approach and lets kind of Kamaru Usman pressure him. But I think that wouldn't be a really smart strategy for Khamzat Chimaev to let Usman pressure him. I think he needs to be the one on the front foot, kind of pressuring Kamaru Usman, being measured, but being the one on the front foot and pressuring Usman against the cage and stuff like that. But ultimately, guys, I just think Khamzat Chimaev is gonna win this fight. I mean, he could also win by submission, but I'm leaning TKO for this fight. I think he's gonna be able to finish Kamaru Usman. I mean, it sucks, man. It sucks because I really wanted to see this fight with Paulo Costa, right? I mean, if you guys seen my other videos, you know that I really wanted to see that Paulo Costa fight. And like I said, I think due to the circumstances, it's really hard to pick Kamaru Usman. And due to the fact that it's in the middleweight division, it's also very hard to pick Kamaru Usman, honestly. But I mean, we've seen that in MMA, anything crazy could happen. And it is the year of the upset. So I'm not saying that Kamaru Usman has absolutely no chance, guys. But I feel like a lot of things are stacked against him. So ultimately, guys, I'm going to go with Khamzat Chimaev to win this fight by TKO, guys. Let me know what you guys think. What are your predictions for Khamzat Chimaev versus Kamaru Usman? We're only a couple days away from this fight. I absolutely cannot wait, guys. Please make sure to like and subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next one.